Hey guys and girls, what's up? It's Lok back at it again doing some squats, and today is my medium day. So before I even get into that, I just want to say I actually recorded this episode all in one take, and my thoughts were quite coherent as well, only to realize that I didn't actually click the record button. So that's kind of annoying, but I'm gonna talk about my workout today as well as the topic of the video and this episode, which is stimulants and working out. So for my high bar squats, I did 3 sets of 6 at 75% of my 1 rep max with a relative intensity of 88%, which is 4% lower than my heavy days relative intensity for squats. So it was 110 kilos. They felt quite good actually, and that's why this is the topic of my video today. Caffeine, or stimulants, and training. And I know a lot of people in the gym use stimulants, pre-workout, Monster, energy drinks loaded with caffeine and whatnot. And again, I'm not here to say whether or not that's correct or incorrect, whether or not you should or shouldn't do it. I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not here to make recommendations. Do I think it's a bad idea? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying though is when people have to rely on stimulants to get them through their training, it usually means that something else is probably, I wouldn't say something else has gone wrong, but you might have done something wrong with either your programming, your nutrition, your sleep, something else in your life. Because you should be able to get through each day of your program without having to rely on stimulants. And even when you're not on stimulants, it shouldn't feel like you're really pushing through any sort of difficulty. It should still feel difficult, of course, but it shouldn't feel like you're about to die. And that's what I see a lot, especially with lifters like me, intermediate level lifters, advanced lifters, where we end up struggling because we're plateauing and we think we need to work more when really we just need to work smarter, make sure we program better, make sure we dial in on our nutrition, make sure we eat enough protein, carbs, and make sure we get enough sleep. That's one of the big ones, is getting enough sleep, and most people fall on that aspect, is not getting 7.5 hours of sleep per night. And I'd say 7.5 hours is the bare minimum on its own. So I also didn't sleep that well yesterday night, and that's why I had a bit of caffeine as well to help me get through it. And personally, how I use my caffeine is I'll have 1 coffee a week. So a lot of people go crazy on the coffee, and I see people end up drinking 3 cups every day, and you end up relying on it. And that's why when you get off it, you feel lethargic, you get withdrawal symptoms, and then it becomes really difficult to get off it, just like any sort of drug. And I personally don't want to go down that rabbit hole, so I make sure my programming is dialed down so that I don't have to rely on caffeine. But in so saying that, it does feel really good, because I trained on an empty stomach, and I wasn't even hungry till about 3 p.m. So that's really the power of caffeine. And for me, I think I'm very sensitive to it. So even a cup of coffee does crazy. I drink it Americano style, no sugar, no milk. I really like the taste of coffee actually, but I really get amped up from coffee. So I don't need that much pre-workout. And I think that's also attributed to the fact that I don't drink it that often. And the literature does suggest that if you drink a lot of caffeine, or intake it, however you ingest caffeine, if you intake it very frequently, you build a tolerance to it very quickly. And that's why people will recommend you to cycle off caffeine. And I think more people should be doing that, as well as manage their training properly. And I think, I forgot what the recommendation was according to literature. Now, these are just vague guidelines, but I think it was something along the lines of, if you want performance enhancing effect with caffeine, you should be taking about 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate. That's just me ballparking and just making a vague estimate. But you'll see that for most pre-workout supplements, they'll contain roughly about 350 milligrams to about 400 something milligrams per scoop of pre-workout, which is an insane amount. Like, I wouldn't even consider drinking that even once a week. I only need a little bit of caffeine. But everyone's different as well. Everybody's different. They respond differently to stimulants and whatnot. Some people don't even maybe get a response from it. So I would just say try not to rely on caffeine personally, but everyone has their own opinion. I would just say try and figure out what other aspects of training is causing you to stall, as opposed to the fact that you're just not caffeinated enough. And yeah, I would say, if anything, get more carbs in. That usually helps a lot too. Try and drop the fats a little and just get more carbs in. And that generally works very well for me. So yeah, that's all I really have to talk about today for the video. I'm glad I still managed to do this in one take as well. And I'd like to think that it was still relatively coherent. But if you have anything you want me to talk about, feel free to stick it down in the comments, and I'm happy to talk about it in another episode. But yeah, that was the workout for today. So take care.